Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 136. Big Box Steve on the mic, got the Big Smooth and Fresh Wes. So we got the whole crew here because we're coming up on the what's the semifinals of the college football playoff, and NFL playoffs
Playoffs.
start this week, right?
Playoffs?
Talking about playoffs. Not for our teams, but for lots of other teams. And so we'll weigh in on those today. I do want to get started with college football. It starts before the NFL, but we've been talking college football a lot as the playoffs is winding down. Before we get into that, the game by game, uh, what about the possibility of Ohio State and Penn State playing in the championship? And then Oregon being number one and losing. What's that say now about the Big Ten versus the SEC?
Well, this was kind of a down year for the SEC anyway. I mean, we all were just like, okay, Georgia. But was Georgia as good as Georgia in the past? No. Plus, and I hate to say this, but they are different without Carson Beck. And then we look at Texas and they've got holes. There's not like a dominant SEC team.
So overall, is the Big Ten stronger than the SEC this year?
I would say so, because I mean, you had a bunch of good teams in the SEC, but none like you still look at the Big Ten. You had Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana. They were more top heavy.
Yeah, four of the 12 teams, right, in the playoff were Big Ten.
Yeah. And I don't know what, and once you go past there, I don't know how many teams are that great. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
What's
I
your
mean,
take on that, Wes?
you mean with the possibility of Penn State playing Ohio State? So, or
Yeah, and the
yeah.
Big Ten versus the SEC this year.
Oh, okay. I think it's a real possibility because the way Penn State played against Boise State, um, Katron Allen is a beast. I mean, if he gets a hole, he gets some space. He gets into that second level and third level. You don't want to tackle the guy. The guy just he looks for contact. The physicality of Penn State has always been there, but I think they have a good chance to get there. And as far as comparing them to SEC teams, it's one of those years where, um, Ohio State, you can't really put them, they're kind of like in a different level than the Big Ten. They've been that way for 10, 15 years. They play like an SEC school. They've gotten bigger and faster. Um, Ohio State's secondary, they've played 59 games together. They're almost like an NFL secondary. I mean, these guys could play in the pros right now. So they have a lot of talent. Penn State has always had defensive talent, line play. They're physical. They just haven't had the skill position guys to really get guys deep. But against Boise State, they're getting behind that coverage. So the Big Ten is getting stronger, and I think the SEC is falling off a little bit because of NIL. Because Ohio State can pay anybody. They could pay for a championship.
which they're doing.
Huh?
Which they're doing. I mean,
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the teams, and you do see like Big Ten teams that have transfers from the SEC. Ohio State safety, I think their All American safety, is he not a transfer?
Josh Downs,
Is that him
Oh,
from Alabama?
was he from
I'm not sure.
So I know they had a big transfer. Oregon's gotten transfers. Their receiver was a transfer from Alabama. So I could see the SEC not being able to retain all the great players that they had in the past.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
Caleb Downs?
Caleb Downs. Yeah.
Caleb Jones, yeah.
Well, with the all the Big Ten teams that made the playoffs, so you got four teams, and now you're potentially looking at the Big Ten having their own championship. I mean, the SEC definitely didn't have the best showing in the playoffs, right? So I've seen that everywhere. A lot of people are comparing all the bowl games. Now you look at possibly a Big Ten championship. Does that maybe make the playing field equal going forward or a little more equal than what it's been in the past? Because the SEC has always dominated.
I think it's just a down year. I bet you they retool next year. Georgia's already got the Branch brothers from USC. I mean, that was the thing Georgia was missing was they didn't have any like deep throw, like good receivers. For some reason, Georgia had no receivers, right? So, like getting the Branch brothers from USC, that's some talent, and who knows what else is going to happen. I mean, they still have one like Georgia and Alabama, Tennessee, even Florida, LSU, all have top 10 recruiting classes.
Yeah, they're never going to fall off, right? They're never going to go down per se, but it's more about leveling the playing field. I just wonder going forward, is this maybe the SEC won't be as dominant? Maybe it's because of the portal, maybe because NIL, other options. It would be refreshing to see, right? Even if it's just one other conference that's rivaling them. So it's been pretty tough to watch that, over the years. So game wise, we've got Texas and Ohio State. I mean, just to kind of preface this, I haven't seen much of anybody picking Texas. So why is Texas being shunned like that? They're in the semifinals. They've won their games. The only team they lost to is Georgia this year, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
I
what's your guys' thoughts on the game and then who's going to win? Break it down.
well, I think we've all thought all year is Ohio State has the most talent out of any team in college, right? We just didn't know if they were going to put it together or what was going to happen if like Ryan Day was going to be, bad coaching, like I'm going to mess it up like he did against Michigan. But then you see what they did against Oregon. And that's what everyone's looking at. It's like, oh, they put it all together. There's no one going to stop them then. Isn't it like the $100 million team? Isn't that something what was their nils?
Their NIL, I don't know.
Well, I think it was 20 million, somewhere in that range. But I don't really know how that's probably their top tier players.
Yeah,
I think
you're right. 20 million.
I think Oregon was like 12, something like around that area. So I don't know.
Well, let's throw our picks out on this one for our listeners here. I want to look at the what's the spread on this game?
Six.
So yeah, so I got 5.5, so six to win, five under. Okay, well here's our pick. Who wants to go first
I'll just Ohio State.
to cover?
I don't, they have just, I mean, they can just put, if it's not Henderson, it's Judkins. If it's not like the Jeremiah Smith is like the best receiver in the NFL in college right now, and he's a freshman. And they have got I can't even pronounce his name. Ukaba. I can't. I am horrible with his name. But I mean, he's been there for a few years now. He's good. It's like they got so much weapons. Texas has a good defensive front, but can you really trust Quinn Ewers to win in a shootout?
I
What
think,
do you got, Wes?
well, I'm going to take Ohio State, but I think Texas has a chance just because I think the weakness on both these teams are the quarterbacks. I think these defenses are like Ohio State's secondary is so legit, and Texas is overall. I mean, they don't. Texas doesn't have a weakness on their defense.
No.
I think you're going to see turnovers. I think these guys they don't like pressure. Yours does not. Yours is quarterback rating under pressure is like 12. And 78 when he doesn't have pressure. I just think there's gonna be a lot of turnovers. I think it's gonna be an ugly game, but I think Ohio State running game is better than Texas running game. I think Henderson is gonna get in the open field, and that's gonna be the difference in the game.
Yeah, Henderson has to have a big game, especially out of the backfield, catching the ball. Judkins is great. I don't think he catches the ball.
So
He's
I
not as
think
good
I
as a scat back as Henderson.
I think Judkins is going to have the bigger game because they're gonna he's a slasher, and I think they're gonna try to slash. It's going to be hard to go around Texas. It's hard to go through them with those 300-pound, um, linemen. But I
Right.
think you're going to see a lot more off tackle. And Judkins, he can get going. He does have power. So I
Yeah, when
think.
you're running him off tackle, that's where it's ideal for him.
Mhm.
But you don't want to, run him on a flare route and throw
No,
him the ball.
no,
So that's where Henderson. So depending on how much pressure Texas decides to bring, because with pressure, you got to dump it off, right? Where you're gonna get a lot of tight end and back if you're smart. So that makes me wonder how Ohio State's going to combat that, and I think it is with kind of what Derek's saying with Jeremiah Smith and Ikuba or whatever his name is. You have to get them over the middle, quick slants, into that area where the linebackers should be, when they're coming up to stop the run. I'll take Ohio State as well. I think they will cover. Um, I don't particularly like either quarterback. Texas to me just isn't playing as well as Ohio State. So right now, Ohio State is on a lot of momentum, and Texas is coming off a close game with ASU.
well,
So we'll take that on that pick. So let's talk Notre Dame, Penn State. Wes, why don't you lead us off on this one? What are your thoughts on the game? Who's going to win? What's the spread is?
Like 1.5.
Yeah, so some coin flip.
I'm going with Penn State. I it's I mean Notre Dame's defense is playing so well that they their takeaways in big moments. I think when Penn State runs the ball the way they do, I think you kind of eliminate that threat. I think Aller is going to get it to their tight end. He's so hard to guard. Like you can roll up on the receivers. Um, their receivers don't like to be pressed, so I think they're going to be in their face. But I think the X factor is their tight end.
So is that up to Aller though to be able to get the ball out? Because I mean Notre Dame is going to bring pressure, but is going to get pressure even without blitzing. They've done that all year. And everybody's like, oh, that's not going to happen against Georgia. Well, it still happened against Georgia. So if it's happened against Georgia, it's going to happen against Penn State.
Well,
Um, can Aller though navigate that? That's the question.
I I think when you have he's so dependent on Tyler Warren.
Right.
I think like I said, if you can somehow slow down their running game and you're going to body their receivers and they're going to have a hard time getting behind coverage. the X factor is Tyler Warren, and I think he's got a huge game. I think they'll do enough. It's going to be probably an ugly game because Notre Dame's I don't think is going to be able to have their way with Penn State's defense as they have with other teams during the season. So,
Quick take: do you think
well,
Penn State's defense is better than Georgia's defense?
no, not player for player, no, not as roster wise. I mean,
Well, it's not like Notre Dame did anything against Georgia's defense, though.
Doesn't matter. I just is Penn State's which defense is better, or do they compare Georgia and Penn State?
I don't think you can compare anybody's roster against Georgia. Georgia just had flaws in certain areas on offense. Their defense is pretty solid. Um, Maybe they weren't in the right positions all the time, and that's on Kirby Smart. But yeah, if I'm taking better athletes, better pro talent, I'm taking Georgia.
Yeah. Where would you put Penn State's defense in the if you're ranking them top 10, top 20?
I don't know, like 6.
Yeah, I think they have a good defense as well.
They're sixth in yards allowed and eighth in points allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right
So
at that 6 to 7, 6 to 10 maximum 10, right?
yeah,
So you're taking Penn State?
yeah, I'm taking Penn State.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I've liked Notre Dame from the beginning. I don't like this matchup for them is the problem. But given, how it played out and where everybody got placed in the tournament, it kind of looked like Penn State would meet Notre Dame here, obviously, or Georgia. But if you're rooting for Notre Dame, it would be Penn State, Notre Dame, which it is. Penn State's running game is brutal. Singleton and Allen, you're looking at probably 75 yards apiece, right, on average. So you're going to get 150, 200 yards out of them. And that's going to wear on Notre Dame. And then it comes up to Drew Aller to, like you're saying, not just Tyler Warren, but move the ball, complete third downs, and really be a quarterback who doesn't make any mistakes, right? No turnovers, and get your third down completions. So the game comes down to Drew Aller, and I'm not a huge Drew Aller fan, and I'm going with Notre Dame because they have a solid defense and they'll hopefully do enough on offense to win the game. So on a coin flip, I'm taking Notre Dame.
See, and then I'm thinking the opposite. I think Drew Aller is the best quarterback left in the playoffs right now. And that will be the difference because you know what? He can do what Leonard can do. He can scramble, he can get yards on the ground, but he can also throw the ball. That's the difference in this game is do I really trust Leonard to win you a game? No, I don't. And I mean, I think about it. I'm looking back and you had Boise State had 5 turnovers against Penn State. I mean, they have a really good defense. And Indiana, now we find out O'Rourke had a torn ACL. He was playing with a torn ACL. So that wasn't like 100% quarterback against you. So Notre Dame played against a quarterback with a torn ACL and then a freshman backup. They haven't had a real test yet. And I think this is it. I think Penn State has a better running game. The defenses are pretty close, but I think the big thing comes down to I think I trust Al Alarm better than Leonard.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to pick because I just it's hard for me to see Ohio State playing Penn State.
It'd be horrible.
No, but it almost like Texas almost has to win if you're talking that. But you can't just bet against Ohio State that easily, especially if Ewers did save them last week. He did come in and he got the ball to Golden Arizona State screwed up, of course, on defense on that fourth down. But he did play better, and he looked more confident. But God, it's hard to pick Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, I think it'd be a great game, but I just don't like conference national championship games. I think it's lame.
Yeah. Well, you both picked it.
I know.
My preference.
But here's the thing: there's a lot of lameness in college football right now. I mean, what are we talking about here? Of course, it's gonna be Ohio State, Penn State.
My preference, I'd love for Notre Dame to win it all. I like Marcus Freeman, but
I did going through this process. I told everybody, and people got at the Oregon game. People got before the Oregon game. People were getting mad at me. I said Notre Dame. You know, I don't think Oregon wants to see Notre Dame because
they don't want to see Ohio State either.
They don't want to see Ohio State. They you know, they're physical, and I'm not going to talk about that game.
Can we now, because we're from Oregon, we live here. Can we now just stop talking about Oregon being good every year until they do something? Because every single year, Oregon's going to do this, Oregon's going to do that. They got embarrassed.
That was terrible. That was like, I can't even find a word. I was in shock for like 24 hours and it hit me. I was like, what the hell is watch? And then everybody's mad.
Well, it was surprising, though. I mean, it wasn't. I knew that Oregon could lose that game by multiple touchdowns, but never would I imagine that they would be down 34-0 in like the early second quarter. That was not something that I pictured happening in that game, and which was so surprising.
This is why it was so embarrassing. So I was watching it with my father-in-law, who doesn't really watch football that much. He's watching it, and he's like, "Who's that quarterback for Ohio State? He's really good." And I want to be like, "No, he's not.
No.
Oregon is making him look great."
He's throwing to Ryan Williams. He's throwing like the best receiver in college football. Like,
well, anybody that wide
catch.
open.
He's like, "Hey, let's play catch, okay? You catch the ball and you run the end zone every time."
It's pretty ridiculous. And those we've talked about that previously. Is Dan Lanning the right coach? Is Oregon really that good?
Let me just bring this up. You saw him on the sideline in the second quarter. He was visibly shaken. Visibly, you could see it on his face.
Yeah,
and he's talking to the sideline reporter. I mean, I was surprised they interviewed him. Like, hey, let's see what he has to say. And he was kind of like tripping over his words. He's like, we got our ass kicked in the first half. That's basically what he said. Translation, that's what he said. He was visibly shaken, and every Oregon fan and alum should be alarmed. If I was him, I would go on vacation for 2 months so everybody tries to forget about what happened and then come back and build that team like Ohio State. And I think I would scrap your goals for next year. You need to build a more physical brand because they got punched in the mouth. They got pushed around, and their receivers can't even get open. They got a lot of work to do.
That's, there is a different style from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten as far as just the average team plays differently. You got a lot more West Coast offense or passing, whatever you want to call it, versus a more run-heavy, defensive-oriented teams.
I was saying for weeks, I said I did pick Oregon to win it all because I thought, and you saw it in the first quarter, Dylan Gabriel, they kept him in the box.
Right.
In order for them to be successful, those receivers have a hard time getting a lot of separation when you're talking about getting down the field, unless Gabriel gets outside the pocket, and that buys time for his receivers, Tez, and everybody to get open underneath. And that's what I thought. That's what happened in the second half. He started going outside the pocket, and they started scoring points. But they kept him in that box, and those receivers, he didn't have time to wait for those receivers to do those snake routes.
Yeah, I mean
Well,
that was the obvious first quarter adjustment. I think if we probably all watched the game. In the first quarter, I was saying the same thing. It's like not just that, but when Gabriel starts to move, who has to adjust, right? The linebackers on defense,
Yeah.
meaning they can't come downhill on the run every time. They can't go right into their drops because Gabriel will be a threat to, run up the middle, run around the corner, get out of the pocket, and throw the ball. What was crazy to me that they never made that adjustment, for the most part until basically the end of the half. So why would that was obvious to see.
Oh, I think Lanning was so unprepared for that game. I can't believe. I mean, playing man against Williams. I mean, you can't do that. And I guarantee you, Texas ain't gonna do that. Like they're gonna think about it because that Texas will try to do a lot more man, but I wouldn't do it after what I saw. Um,
well, the funny thing is, you were talking to like, oh, Oregon, trying to do Pac-12 stuff against Big. The funny thing is no, but Ohio State beat Oregon with Pac-12 stuff. Chip Kelly's their OC. Why
Oh
do you
yeah.
think everyone was so wide open? That's what Chip Kelly's offenses do. Why did he make all the quarterbacks at Oregon look so good? Because all they had to do was throw to wide open receivers,
yeah.
right? And that's
Well,
what
he
happened.
he hasn't been Chip Kelly,
No.
for a while. This
He hasn't
game,
had players like he has now.
well, compared to all year for Ohio State, they didn't play like this. They did this game all year. Like they just had lost to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
You
scored
know,
points.
they looked so bad against Michigan. Did you watch that Michigan Ohio State game?
I couldn't watch it. I was on the
It was
road.
horrible. Like it
Because
was
you're you
hard to
guys were texting
watch.
like this is the worst game I've ever seen.
And for some reason, like I said, we talked about this before, but I just think that the he prepared for the game. He put in new wrinkles, things that he thought would be open based on the previous game, and Oregon didn't adjust.
Yeah.
Like that, it was that simple. It looked like one team prepared and one team didn't.
Yeah. That's what you said earlier about Dan Lanning.
Yeah, you don't prepare, you don't win. Like, and you've done this multiple years, so I can't. I'm not a Dan Lanning fan, so we went
Well,
down that tangent again.
wasn't it his first game? It wasn't his first game against Georgia when he
It
first
was.
started as a coach, and they just annihilated Oregon.
Oh, so bad.
Because they're like, we know everything you're going to do. You should know everything we're going to do, but you didn't stop anything.
Yeah.
And that's where he doesn't know how to adjust. He knows, oh, here comes a team that I just coached. I should know how to beat them.
Oregon, like a lot of things in football, has become a production. It's all about, the duck. It's all about the jerseys. It's all about the fans in Autzen Stadium. And it's a little bit too much about that. And they always have speed and they got better line play. They're getting more physical, not physical enough on the back end. And they're you know, they got a lot of work to do.
Well, there's the meme out there that says 3 million and something odd uniforms, zero championships.
Yeah, and the uniform the combination annoyed me, and I guess they actually were fighting over the combination. I'm like, are you guys effing kidding me? What is Ohio State coming out in? The same thing they've been coming out since like 1950. Stop worrying about the stupid uniforms.
Yeah, you should be worried about your game plan.
Yeah,
Well, think about it. Look who we got. We got Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame. They don't really change the brand.
I you know what? But I like it. I like that combination. I just I'd rather I kind of can't stand Texas, but Texas Penn State would be more intriguing to me. But still, I just don't think.
Well, I'm betting Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
You guys are betting Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd like to see Notre Dame, Texas is who I'd like to see.
Boo.
There's nothing wrong with that. Come on.
Oh, that's like I don't know. I just don't like Quinn Ewers. I don't like how Sark runs his offense. It's like
Sark's probably going to be the Raiders' new head coach. What are you talking about?
stop. Don't let's not even what are you talking
You
about?
just
He's
jinxed
getting
it
this
now.
inside
So
information.
now it's happening.
No, I'm
Who's
just
the
saying
source?
Sark is getting NFL.
I'm gonna throw up. Stop. This is not true. There's no way it's true. Sark is not. I'd rather have John Gruden back.
Okay, so let's wrap up college football here with one last thing. We talked previously about, so we'll go back to just finish with Notre Dame, Penn State here for a second. So last time when they're playing Georgia, we talked about Riley Leonard, and you got to stop him from getting yards outside of passing because he's running a lot, running the different, read options. He had a pretty good running game against Georgia. Does Penn State need to focus the same way and understand that you can't let Leonard run for 100 yards or 80 to 100 yards? Like, how important is that to that game?
Oh, that's everything to the game. Just because I still don't think that they have the outside guys to beat Penn State's corners and their coverage schemes. It's all about stopping that read option. And you're Love and I think he's going to have a huge game for them to have a chance because I think they're going to keep. They're like, okay, we're going to make you hand the ball off. We're not going to let you hold the ball. I think he's gonna get his to a certain extent, but I think they're going to key on that. They'd be stupid. You're going to be stupid if you let him run because then you're in trouble
Right.
because that opens up everything else.
I think the big thing is the one time you need to limit his not his dedicated runs, but his scrambles on third down. That is the key. Because that's if you watch, that's what he does. It's like, oh, 3rd and 6, they have to pass, quote unquote. And then he goes back to pass and he's like, oh, I'm gonna pull it down and run for first down. And that's a lot of his plays on third down. So that's what you got to key on is stopping the
Right.
third down scramble run for first downs.
So then, I mean, realistically, if you're trying to stop that, you got to spy. That's the only
Yeah.
way. But then you're taking a linebacker out of coverage potentially. So now if you're the Notre Dame coach, do you think, oh, well, now they have to spy Leonard. Now on third down, I should start running more, tight end, quick outs, receiver slants because the linebacker is going to be held.
Well, you don't necessarily have to have a spy to stop him from scrambling. You can overload blitz, before he has a chance to scramble. What you don't want to do is just sit back in zone and let him stand back there and then be like, I guess I'm just going to take off. You got to make him think out there. You can't just let him be able to process everything. So I mean, a spy would work sometimes, but you got to switch it up. And I think that's what you have Abdul Carter. You have a pretty good defensive line. So you could, switch up a bunch of blitzes and then have a spy at some points. You can't just have just a spy. You got to switch up the
Yeah,
defenses.
you gotta keep outside contain and then get that middle push and just hope he doesn't break through
Yeah.
in a sense. And I
Yeah.
think Penn State can do that for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, then you blitz them. Georgia blitzed quite a bit, right? They put pressure on him. There was plenty of times where, they got pressure on third down sacks or even, just pressure throws. So ultimately, like I said, when I'm analyzing that game, I think it's going to come down to how good of a game Riley Leonard has. If he throws for 150 and runs for 100, Notre Dame wins. So that's ultimately how I think that game plays out. So I got Notre Dame, Ohio State. You guys got Penn State, Ohio State. That's our college football wrap. Next, we got NFL playoffs. All right. So NFL playoffs this weekend. I've said this before. Love this time of year. I love the NFL. Season's great, but there's nothing to me. March Madness is close, but NFL playoffs to me is the top. And so this is kind of what we wait for all year. Playoffs are decided starting this weekend. Let's start with the AFC. We'll do Texans Chargers first. Interesting game. So Texans technically are the home team, right? Because they're the 4th seed, so they're at home. Chargers are the favorite though. So you got a home team in the playoffs favored to lose by 3. I'll lead this one off. I don't like the way Houston's been playing on top of their injuries. I think they're in trouble in this game. Probably why they're not favorite at home. But Chargers are going to play well enough to win this game. They're going to run the ball. Dobbins is running the ball well. Herbert's looked a lot better. He's using his feet a lot, which is great. Getting out of the pocket, forcing the defense to move around. Quentin Johnston proved he can actually catch a ball. That was amazing. So he's catching some balls, so that's hard too. Houston's going to have to win this on defense. They're really going to need their defense to step up. If their defense can cause a couple turnovers, maybe even get a defensive touchdown, Houston can win this game. But I'm going to go Chargers to cover on that one.
Yeah, I got the Chargers too. I think it's like, oh, it's funny. It's like CJ Stroud doesn't look as good when he has a bad offensive line now. And that's a bad offensive line. And with Bosa and Mack coming at you, I'm gonna have to take the Chargers here. The Texans haven't looked that good at all. So yeah, I got the Chargers covering.
What do you got, Wes?
Yeah, unanimous. I'm taking the Chargers. I mean, Stroud just doesn't look as confident. They got injuries piling up on defense. Um, yeah, it's like they're just kind of stumbling in the playoffs. Home home field does matter a little bit because they, you know, traditionally last year, I mean, they when they beat down the Browns, that crowd gets pretty loud. But I think the Chargers will win by 6. It'll be not it's gonna be a blowout, but I'll cover.
So unanimous on the first game here, Chargers Texans. We all got Chargers to cover. It's unfortunate for the Texans because it's almost like a regress. Everybody was talking about them being a Super Bowl contender this year. They haven't looked great. Maybe not do as well as they did last year. Jump into Ravens Steelers. Well, this is a great one for you to start, Derek.
That's an easy pick, man. I gotta go Ravens here. I think they're gonna cover. Everyone's talking bad about how Russell Wilson isn't playing as well, but you know what? His receivers suck. And I'm not gonna say Russell Wilson is great, but I was watching the game, the Bengals. He had a bad pass against Pick for Pickens, right? And then on 4th down, throws it right in Freiermuth's hands and he drops it, which would have been a first down. You can't trust any. I can't trust Pickens. He had like 0 catches. And if you
And he
can't
had
trust,
like 3 or 4 drops too.
yeah, he's their best. There's no way. Plus, yeah, the Ravens are hot. They kept, everyone was like, oh, Steelers. And I'm like, the Ravens will catch up and take that division, which happened. Steelers always start off hot and then fade at the end. Yeah, this game's not going to be close. I got the Ravens covering the 9.5.
9.5. All right. Wes, what you got?
Yeah, the same. I'd say the Ravens probably win like by 15, something like that. Yeah, they Steelers, their offense looks dysfunctional, and you know they're yeah they just they don't have the firepower to keep up with the Ravens. The Ravens win pretty easily.
Yeah, it's tough because the Steelers offense looks really bad. And the Ravens, unfortunately, I don't know. I haven't looked at the Zay Flowers update yet.
I think he's going to play.
He's going to play, so that helps them a lot. They just have too many weapons, you know. And the Steelers, when you think about the Steelers, you're like, what weapons do they have? I mean, Najee Harris is not a weapon. Like he's a solid back. He's going to rush for 65, 70 yards a game, which he's proven since he came into the league, right?
Did you see it on the broadcast? They're like, "Oh, Najee Harris has just reached 1,000 yards," and Aikman's like, "That's not that big of an accomplishment. That's like 50 yards a game."
Right. I mean, it's true. It's what 67 yards a game or so. Not
Well,
even.
he's not gonna wow you. He's not
Yeah.
gonna go. He's not gonna do what Derrick Henry does.
No.
But he's good enough to get you yards in situations. But I don't think Warren's that great. I mean, he's all right, but they don't have a running back by committee. Um, they just don't have the weapons.
Yeah. So I think it's hard for them to go in and win this game. Um, and then obviously Baltimore gets to be at home. I think this Baltimore does easily win this. I'm gonna have to take them to cover as well. And so another unanimous there. Pittsburgh may surprise you just because they do have a really solid defense and maybe they get some turnovers, you know, but they're going to have to. The defense has to step up. All right. So Bills Broncos. So Broncos coming off the route of Kansas City. They're really proud of that win, by the way, the
Yeah,
Broncos are. Congratulations, you get the 7 seed, you play the Bills. Wes, what do you got here?
I'm taking the Bills, but I think
8.5.
uh, yeah, I think they'll win by that. I just the only it you don't want to take the Broncos lightly because for some reason they think they have momentum, and even if they're delusional, sometimes a team that's delusional can take it to another level. They can bully. I mean, they do have they do have a pretty um, effective running game, and if they start running the ball on Buffalo, you get Estime and Williams, and then Bo Nix can get outside the pocket and create. I mean, they can make it difficult for Buffalo if they're not on their A game offensively. And Denver's defense is playing better.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be close. I just think Buffalo wins in the end.
Yeah.
Hell,
This is interesting, Wes. Who had more passing yards, Bo Nix or Josh Allen?
Bo Nix. I mean, he was 18 for 18 in the. I know because
No,
my.
in the season.
Oh, I think it's Bo Nix, isn't it? Oh no, I mean Josh Allen. We're done.
No,
Oh, I forgot.
dude. That because you think it's an easy question, right? But it's Bo Nix.
Yeah.
37-75 to Josh Allen's 37-31.
Well, that's the whole thing they talk about the MVP because Lamar Jackson's stats blow Josh Allen's way.
Oh
But
yeah.
Bo Nix apparently threw for more yards. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They were probably behind in a lot of games. They needed to throw the ball more.
So Wes, you're going with Buffalo to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 8-0 at home this year. So you can't really bet against them, I guess. The Broncos, they have some momentum. Their running game isn't, I don't know, good enough to go in and force Buffalo to be one dimensional on defense. And Cook is going to play well. Josh Allen is going to be Josh Allen. And ultimately, yeah, they're going to control the ball and win this game. God, yeah, I'm going to take them to cover as well. So I got Buffalo to cover the 8.5.
Yeah,
You got
I got Buffalo to cover too. There, Josh Allen is going to will his team, and the NFL is going to want it too. NFL doesn't want Broncos to win this game. They want the Bills to be playing the Ravens next week,
and then the Ravens to play the Chiefs.
or the Bills to play the Chiefs, one
Yeah,
of
the
them.
Bills to play the
Because
Chiefs.
both
Yeah.
of them have their history of losing to the Chiefs in the playoffs.
You know what's
Yeah.
interesting is that in this playoff versus the college football playoff, at least on the AFC, you look at it, it's like it's fair for the Chiefs because whoever wins that game is really the worst team, right? And then this Bills and Ravens have to play. So that bye actually means something for them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice for the Chiefs in that sense.
Well, and they reseed. So if Denver beats Buffalo, it's they get to play Denver. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah.
not
Well,
like
that's yeah, also, but we've already picked, so I don't think Denver can win now because we picked the Bills. All
Oh,
right, let's jump over to the NFC here. Rams, Vikings, 4-5 seed. Vikings, a tough loss to the Lions, but puts them in the 5 seed, which kind of sucks for the Rams because record wise, I think you're playing the second best team in the NFC, right?
yeah.
I don't I don't think the Vikings, this is not a guaranteed win for the Vikings. Obviously, the spread doesn't think that because it's pretty much a 50-50 game. Rams at home, this is where you find out what Sam Darnold's all about. And I don't think he's about that life. I think Stafford is. And I'm going to take the Rams in this one.
This was the hardest game for me to pick because honestly, I'm not in love with either team. Darnold looked horrible against the Lions. Like his pass, he looked like old Sam Darnold. So as people found film on him, did Aaron Glenn find the blueprint? And then Stafford, screw you, Stafford. Throw the ball to Cooper Kupp once in a while. Jeez, kidding me?
That's how a
I'm
man
taking the
loses fantasy football.
I'm taking the Rams because it's at home. Stafford has been there before. I think Darnold's a nice story, but you know, it's got to be midnight at some point.
And he's got some good weapons, though. I mean, when you think about what's around him, Addison
Luke
and
Robertson shut down
Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson.
Uh, well, in the first half, though, there were times that Jefferson easily would have had catches or touchdowns where it was slightly overthrown or overthrown by a yard or two. Darnold missed a lot when Jefferson was
Well,
open.
that's what I'm saying. Doesn't matter your talent if your quarterback can't get you the ball.
Right. What do you got, Wes?
yeah, yeah, I got to go with the Rams too. Darnold, it was so bad and so ugly, and even though the Rams are not going to have that type of performance defensively, I think, um, I just think Rams playing at home, they got enough weapons. They will probably finally get the ball to Cooper Kupp. He's, um, I put Williams. They I think they'll have enough to beat them, but I think the Vikings are going to give them a game. I think Darnold's going to turn the ball over. I think he got the idea that the week before you celebrate in the locker room like they did. They didn't win the division. They get in the playoffs, and it's like they're celebrating, and it's like, and then they get punched in the mouth like this. I think it will have a lingering effect enough. I think Justin Jefferson is going to get off. I think Addison is going to have a big game. I just think Stafford is going to play better than Darnold when it matters.
Is the Rams, is their defense good enough to stop Minnesota even with a mediocre quarterback given the weapons Minnesota has?
That's what worries me is the back end. Is like you better get your schemes together because I think Jefferson isn't going to have another game like that. And if you're going to roll up on Jefferson, Addison's going to be just as effective. I just think um, the Rams will have enough. It's going to be close. I'd say it's a 3-point game. It might even go to overtime.
Yeah, the Rams defense worries me in
Yeah,
this game. So they have to play well. Like they can't give up a lot of big plays. They got to keep everything underneath and make Darnold beat you. So I mean, there's this game obviously can go either way, to be
it's
honest. You
hard.
look at that's why they're putting the spread, basically even.
Well, and here's what's the crazy thing. Let's say the Vikings win, right? Then the Lions have to play the Vikings.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, so like the Chiefs get a crappy team, and the
Well, not
Lions get
necessarily. It depends on how the other games shake out, though, because there could be a reseeding.
right. But I mean, what the Chiefs can get either the Broncos, the Steelers, or the Chargers or Texans, right?
Right.
That's not that daunting. But the Lions, if the Vikings win, I mean, if the if Packers Commanders win, yeah, then it
Right.
won't. If the
But
Vikings win and the others go status quo, then you're gonna have Vikings Lions.
yeah, potentially. Yeah, potentially that's what happens if all the the higher seeds win, right?
Right. And then so you got a 10-7 Buccaneers team. Go. Yeah.
Well, let's switch to Commanders and the Bucks, right? So this has been one of the games that I've seen that have been picked a lot of different ways. Their spread on that is 3. Tampa's at home. Didn't look great against the Saints. They're 10-7 on the year, playing a 12-5 Commanders team. Derek, what do you got?
I'm on Wes's bandwagon. I picked the Rams, and now I'm going to pick the Commanders. Those are Wes's two bandwagon teams this year, and I'm going to go with what Wes says, and I'm taking the Commanders to upset the Bucks. Jaden Daniels, man.
Yeah, I mean they're so you take them, you get 3 points. What do you think, Wes? Are the Commanders going to pull it out? How are they going to win this game?
Yeah, I'm taking the Commanders. I have to. My guy, Jaden Daniels, even though he gave me 4 points last week, but that was crap. Um, no, I think he got a little dinged up. I think he's fine. I just think that he's going to create problems for Tampa's defense. McLaurin's going to have a big game. Um, and Baker, I don't think Baker's going to play bad. I just don't think he's going to. I think he will. They sputtered against the Saints. That was alarm. I mean, that was disturbing the way they played against the Saints the first half. I think that will linger some. And Jane Daniels in the fourth quarter, I think, is going to have a couple touchdowns. They should win.
Yeah, do you think he's got to do a lot on his feet to win this game? Like, what's his rushing got to look like to win this game?
He's gonna probably have to avoid rush, and he's He's gonna have to be crafty. I think he'll have like 70 yards versus I think they'll get pressure on Baker. I think uh Oregon's rookie running back, he's gonna have a big game.
Bucky
They're gonna have to run
Irvin.
the ball.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving. I think Bucky Irving's gonna have a big game if they have a chance.
Oh man, that's tough. I've been back and forth on this game a lot, and I'm gonna go with Tampa on this one. So I think this is our first or yeah. So it's the first time that we're not unanimous on a pick, I think.
I mean, it makes sense in a way because you got a rookie quarterback going into Tampa. You know, it's different in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think I like Todd Bowles as a coach in this situation at home, understanding how to control a game. And I don't think Baker needs to have a big game. I think he needs to, make accurate throws and completions on third down. And, Wes talking about Bucky Irving. Yeah, so that's the key. If he goes for 100 yards, and a touchdown, and then Baker can just keep from turning the ball over, I think the Commanders are going to have a hard time, staying on that pace with no mistakes. But it's Baker Mayfield, so you kind of sometimes never know what you're going to get. He's been better as of recent, but it's still Baker Mayfield. So it's a little dangerous pick, but I'm going to take Tampa on this.
What?
Yep, I'm going Tampa. All right, well, wrap it up here with Eagles and Packers for the NFL playoffs. This is the last game of the first week. Obviously, Eagles the 2 seed, they're at home. Packers are an 11-6, 7 seed. That's tough. Eagles are 8-1 at home. So, Wes, what do you got? 4.5 underdog for the Packers.
Well, I'm taking the Eagles. I heard Jalen Hurts is still not right. I guess I don't think it's really going to matter that much when you have Saquon Barkley. That's going to be the big thing that Green Bay is going to have difficulty stopping. I think, and I don't think Jordan Love is right with his elbow. I talked to a Packer fan today, and he's just like, he's always hurt. He's always complaining. I go, we did hurt his elbow, and you kind of need your elbow as a quarterback. And so he, I think he's regressed a little bit with his decision making, holding the ball. He puts himself in situations, throwing off his back foot. And you lose Christian Watson, I think that hurts. I think Josh Jacobs can do some damage. But again, look at their Eagles defensive line. I mean, you better have some premier blocking schemes against their front, or they're going to own the line of scrimmage. They should own the line of scrimmage with every team in the NFL, including the Packers.
They have a really good both sides of the ball on offensive line and defensive line. Do they cover the spread then? So you got the Eagles to cover 4.5. Oh man. I mean, it's Green Bay, so I'm a little biased. I can't pick Green Bay regardless. I do think Philadelphia will win the game, and I do think they'll cover. It helps that they're beating Green Bay. Makes me happy that Green Bay is losing in the first round this year. But Philly does have to. They can't become completely one-dimensional, right? You've got these good receivers, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, you know, Goddard. You've got tons of targets. So as long as they don't get one-dimensional, I think they easily win this game, probably by 10. Um, I don't think right now with Watson not playing and Love banged up, their offense isn't going to be as quick and powerful. So definitely taking Philly.
Going back to Wes's point, I want to know the statistics, but I'm pretty sure it's like 70% of the time Jordan Love throws off his back foot. And if your elbow is messed up, that's not going to help your throwing in it. Well, because you're not getting any power through your legs to throw the ball. It's you're doing all arm strength. And
Yeah.
so when you're just throwing off your back foot constantly, you're not going to get the zip that you need. And I think that's going to be what happens. And he's going to have some turnovers. Um, Jacobs, I love Josh Jacobs, but the Philly D is super strong up the middle. So I got the Eagles to cover as well.
All right. Well, there you have it. The HSC playoff picks for the NFL. We only pick differently on the Bucks Commanders game. Everything else we're all in agreement on. So if you're betting, go bet of the opposite, and you'll win.
Not
Or
Pittsburgh.
we could be right. I mean, who
Not
knows?
Pittsburgh. I'm pretty confident about Pittsburgh.
Yeah. No,
Dude, if the
it's
Ravens and the Bills lose, there's no point in watching
Dude,
playoffs.
if the Bills that I know so many people they're going to be. I told my friend today. I would not take them lightly.
yeah, I'm not disappointed in the games though. For the most part, they're all very watchable games and should be fun to watch. I think the Bills Broncos could get out of a hand if the Broncos, let up a little bit. But for the most part, I don't think you'd be disappointed watching all of these games.
I think Green Bay, Philadelphia is going to be very competitive
Yeah.
because if Hurts starts, if they start turning over the ball, the Packers have a chance.
Well, I mean, you got games all weekend.
Yeah,
Thursday through Monday, we have playoff the college on Thursday and Friday, and then NFL Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So you got 5 days of good playoff games. So nothing to be worried about this weekend. It's a pretty good weekend in sports. And the next couple weeks will be the same, right? All right, so we'll wrap the NFL there. Go. Okay, so next topic is head coaching positions in the NFL, and this is near and dear to our hearts because our teams aren't in the playoffs and aren't so good, and both coincidentally, as of today, replacing coaches, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Wild rumors. No, I guess.
well, tons of rumors. They're always going to do rumors. So I didn't unfortunately have a chance to dig into every single team, but so what teams right now are we looking at in the NFL that 100% need coaches? So New England fired
Yeah,
their coach,
there's six teams. There's the Jets, Raiders, Bears, Patriots, Saints, and Titans. No, wait, Titans don't. No, the Titans have their coach. Never mind. So only is it only five teams?
so we got 5 teams.
There's got to be six.
Well, Jets were an in-season move, right? Who else?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville. Huh.
Well, let's start with our teams and we'll work our way down from coaches.
Oh, I thought we were doing what team is the most.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what team is the most looked at by coaches or influential or want where they want to go, right? So let's break this down. Derek, give us your top 5 teams in the order.
The top six, because we got six teams.
We'll just do all
Do I
six.
go six through one or one through six?
6 through 1.
Okay. My number six team is the Saints. I mean, they're older team. Carr doesn't want to take a pay cut. There are tons of salary cap issues still, and it's not like they're getting any younger.
They have a
Number
lot of
five,
things to address for
yeah.
sure.
My number five is the Jets. They're a complete dumpster fire. You don't know if you're going to have Aaron Rodgers or not. He's probably going to wait for a long time before you find out if anything's going on. Yeah, that one's just messed up completely. You have to have Woody Johnson as your owner, and he's an idiot. And they're talking about like his teenage or early 20 something sons are the ones picking stuff. Did you hear was it the Jerry Judy story?
Yeah. Madden rating.
Yeah, they're like, his Madden rating's not good. We shouldn't trade for him.
It was like 73 on something, and it's like, no.
So I got them at five. I got the Jags at four because they're kind of in a limbo here because you got Trevor Lawrence, but do we don't know how good he is still, right? Because you just got rid of Doug Peterson, who was supposed to be a quarterback guru, but you re-signed Lawrence, so you're stuck with him. But you don't really know, is he a top 10 quarterback or not?
I mean, he has how many years under his belt now, and he hasn't had a good season yet.
Right. And then number three are the Raiders. I think it's just because it's a blank slate and you can come in and just start over and you get to control what you want. You get to work with Tom Brady, which tons of people want to do because they left Tom Brady. So I got the Raiders at three. They'd be lower, but I just think the other teams are more of a dumpster, which is saying a lot because the Raiders are a complete dumpster fire too. Two is the Patriots. You got Drake May. You got a top pick, but you don't have much else. So there's still a lot to work with. So I got the Patriots at two. Plus, I just don't trust Robert Kraft. He's kind of like he lucked himself into Belichick Brady. I think he's kind of like a Jerry Jones. He thinks he's smarter than anyone else. He pushes Belichick out, brings in Jared Mayo. That didn't work. So yeah, I don't. I got the Patriots at two, and then number one is the Bears. I mean, just fix your O-line, Bears, and you're good.
Yeah.
So that's all I mean, they don't have much. They got the quarterback, they got a top 10 pick, which looking at the mocks, they probably could get the top offensive tackle. So I think the Bears are the most desirable spot to go to.
Yeah, it's I mean, hard to argue that list, right? Because what you're talking about there, and for me, it's pretty much identical, right? I do have some questions around the Raiders being that high just because, they didn't get the pick that maybe they'll get a quarterback, maybe not. That puts them back a few more years, and that's a little bit tougher to draw the higher end coach. You still get a good coach, and that's what they need. They need a really good coach.
Well, I was just looking at the Jets are below them in the draft and they need a quarterback. The
Yeah.
Saints are below them in the draft and who knows what they're going to do. And then the Jags are kind of like, you got Trevor Lawrence, but we don't know what you have in Trevor
Well,
Lawrence.
and I think the Jags are the only team I'd say I might switch in that. So I definitely think New Orleans is in trouble, right? I put them at six, 100%. I think because they don't have much of a future as well as a present. Like that's just not good to be like, hey, you know, come coach us. You're not going to be like, get a lot of the top guys, right? So, and then the Jets, they're very in limbo right now, and they are struggling. So, definitely, kind of agree there But when it comes to that Jacksonville Raiders at 3-4, that's a tougher one for me. I think that could go either way. So coin flip there. I would probably, as a coach, want to go to Jacksonville right now if that was my choice. So I'd probably take Raiders at 4 and Jacksonville at 3, and then Patriots at 2 and Bears at 1. So slightly different, but it could be a coin flip in that 3-4. What do you got there, Wes?
I got the Patriots lower. I got them at probably 4. I just think they're not very good at all, and I think they're not going to improve much in the draft, even though they have a high pick. Um, I just don't know. I mean, Drake May played well enough. It's I just don't know how that organization is going to hold up with Robert Kraft going forward. I mean, when we have an owner like Jerry Jones ish and Robert Kraft, there's always a lot of questions when they get older, and like who's running the ship here. Um, you hire Mayo and then you fire him. That just shows you question. Your decision making is ridiculous. You should have
That's a
hired.
little weird, right? To hire a guy, then fire him right after that.
Well, head coach in waiting too. He was a head coach in waiting, and they
Yeah,
gave
right.
him 1 year,
yeah,
and we all knew that the Patriots are going to suck this year,
yeah,
Right.
right? I mean, it wasn't Mayo's fault.
yeah. There's dysfunction in the front office. I think I would go Saints 6 because yes, their salary cap issues. They're getting older, and Carr is not the answer. They thought, okay, maybe he can have some new life here. He is not. He's done. Uh, I would say the Jets, yes, next because of um, their front office, and then I would go with the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Raiders, and the Bears because I just think when you're working with Tom Brady, you're in Vegas, you're going to have a clean slate. You'll eventually get a quarterback to come there or draft a quarterback. Um, I think that got pieces. And with Brady there, I think they will draft better. No more of this crap the way they draft. I think they're going to bring in some free agents and they'll draft better. And if they have to wait for the right quarterback, and you wait for the right quarterback, and we all know who we're talking about here.
Well, one thing's for
So,
sure, though, the Bears and the Raiders are both going to draft poorly.
no, well, that's the thing though.
Well,
Telesco, the Raiders didn't draft poorly. I mean, if you look at Bowers, then Jackson Powers Johnson, they're both probably going to be all rookie team. Uh, and then they got their starting right tackle, DJ Glaze. They got players. And the Bears, come on, you got Ondunze and Caleb Williams. You can't go wrong with those two.
Yeah, and so a
well,
1 year, with top picks doesn't make me happy about the Bears drafting policy for the last 25 years.
when it comes to Caleb, they better make the right decision at coach. I mean, Ben Johnson is the obvious coach choice in this situation. Just the way he calls plays and how he runs the ball, to a point where you're making, Jared Goff look like the best quarterback in the NFL, which we know he isn't. It's now if he can work with Caleb, you got to play to his strengths because what they did to Caleb Williams this year was criminal. Even though I have serious questions about his accuracy in the
Right.
pocket.
I agree.
His decision making and the way he holds the ball and when he runs around in circles, he you got to have a guy that comes in there and says, "Look, you need to stop this, do this. We'll get you outside the pocket, and we'll design the offense get you outside the pocket."
Yeah,
But
but
that
you know
was
what,
terrible.
dude,
Being
Wes,
sacked 50 something times.
if I came over to your house in the middle of the night and woke you up, threw you out of your bed every night for 50 days in a row, you'd have a hard time sleeping too, wouldn't you? Like this guy was under fire. I agree with the accuracy thing, but you got to realize that if you're sacked that many times, how many times were you hurried and pressured and hit?
Well, I mean, yeah. It,
That he just got brutalized all year.
they shouldn't have when they knew you knew about week 5 that I mean, even though they were doing okay, I mean they were 4-2 at one point.
Right.
Um, you had to know that you get to a certain point, you're not going to protect him. You just sit him because he's going to start. He's going to have these cobwebs, and they might linger. And he might be seeing ghosts next year. Like, oh shoot, and it's like you never know.
Right.
They should have just said, you know what, we're going to shut you down. This is stupid. It's just criminal. I don't understand how you can do it.
So, Steve, who are your top three coaching candidates for the Bears?
Well, who I like versus who they're going to get is probably a whole different story. But
Well, we know they're going to get Pete Carroll.
yeah, right. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I would love Ben Johnson, of course, right? Because given the talent that they have on offense that fits in with his coaching style, he's going to be able to be very creative, get the ball out of Caleb's hands quick. So even if they don't solidify the line 100%, it doesn't matter as much when you have a coordinator who says, "Hey, I understand my weakness and I need to throw the ball quicker on these plays." But I can't just run, swing screens and and
No,
jet screens, whatever. It's like, dude, you got to do something different, right? And I think Ben Johnson has that ability. Uh, I would be very happy with Brian Flores as well, just because I think then he could still bring in a coordinator, to help him on offense, but he has a great culture and he's going to help the defense get back to where they were this year, but even higher, right? Because the defense was up and down. They looked great, then they looked horrible. If he can stabilize them and make them a top five defense, you don't need your coordinator to be, the best in the business. So I'd be happy with either of those. Outside of that, you joke about Pete Carroll, but I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world for the Bears. Um, as long as you get coordinators under him. I wouldn't mind Freeman. I heard talk of that, come from Notre Dame. So that would probably be my third pick.
Wes, who would you have your three for the Raiders?
who do I actually like? That's a tough one. I mean, the well, of course. I mean, I would. I mean, if we're talking about culture, Vrabel would be number one at this point. Um, I would like Ben Johnson. I just don't think that's realistic. And then, what's the defensive coordinator from Minnesota? I don't know.
Flores.
Flores.
Flores. Yeah, I certainly don't want Mike McCarthy or Sarkeesian. I want Sark. You gotta be kidding me, right?
It
That is
could be. It could be.
this is called misinformation, Derek. This is misinformation. You're on X all the time, dude. Come on.
Sark will probably go to the Jags. Who knows?
Oh, that would be more ideal. That's more his style.
Yeah. What's your top three Raiders then, Derek?
Number one is Vrabel. And I think it's just because, well, think about it. What are we looking at the Raiders? They have a solid defense. They've got Bowers. They got Jacoby Myers. They got an okay offensive line. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell's okay. You know what? What did he do? He got Ryan Tannehill as they were the number one seed in the AFC at one point with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. So that's where I go. I want Vrabel because he is the culture and he knows how to do game management. You know
Yes.
what? I loved Antonio Pierce, but he wasn't a head coach. And he brought in Getsy. which that should have been fireable offense right there.
Yeah, that is a definite fireable offense.
It's like you don't bring in a retread offensive coordinator who got fired from his last job. Come on, dude. Anyway, I would go Vrabel first. Then I would go, yeah, like Wes said, Ben Johnson's not coming. He wants, I think if I'm Ben Johnson, he's either going to go to the Bears, Jags, or Patriots, I would think. Because it's like, oh, I got a quarterback already. I don't have to worry
Right.
about it. The one I was like, other up and comer was Liam Cohen, the OC for the Bucks. He was the offense coordinator for the Rams, so he's under the McVay tree. I like he 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 made Baker Mayfield good again,
True.
so I like him.
Is he going to make Aiden O'Connell good?
Yeah, and then the one I kind of just because, but it's kind of hard because it just, but he is a D coordinator, so he's had experience now. I like Aaron Glenn.
Yeah. Uh, do you think Aaron Glenn's going to get a lot of looks?
Yeah, he's got a lot of. I think I honestly believe this is the Lions. They have to win this year because I think they're gonna take a
Lose
step back
both
next.
their
They're gonna lose
OC,
both.
yeah,
Yeah,
and DC.
I think so. I think technically, I think Aaron Glenn will probably go to the Saints, and then Ben Johnson will go. I think will go to the Bears. If I'm gonna guess, I got Ben Johnson to the Bears, Aaron Glenn to the Saints, um, Vrabel either to the Raiders or the Patriots. The only thing I've been hearing from the Raiders is they have their eye on two people. And the reason they were holding on to Antonio Pierce is they didn't know. I think they got somebody. I think they already know who it is, which goes against the Rooney rule. But who cares, right? The Jets are the biggest dumpster fire for me. I don't think anyone wants to go there. So
No, they might get one of the up and comers.
I think they're going to get Rex Ryan.
Rex Ryan.
Wow, come on. What
That's
if
what they.
McCarthy goes to the Jets?
McCarthy's staying with the Cowboys. I mean, why would Jerry Jones deny McCarthy being able to interview with the Bears?
Right.
Unless that means he's bringing him back.
Man, I don't understand that though. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
it's
don't.
got to be time to move on.
Yeah. Well, and the one that gets me, so if Vrabel doesn't go to the Patriots, don't the Patriots look like idiots?
Oh, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
you did just come off of, Mayo who played for you.
Right, but I think everyone is talking, oh, Vrabel's the perfect one for there. But if Vrabel doesn't go there, then who are they going to get?
Right. Maybe Vrabel goes to the Bears.
Yeah, maybe.
Although I'm not, so I want the younger, you know, coaches who are going to be good, but they're not 100% focused on culture. I want them who are really, not McDaniel types, but what was ASU's coach's name? What's that guy's name?
Like the old,
No, no, that just played Texas.
oh, Dillingham?
Yeah, Dillingham. I love that type of style, right? Where it's not, you make good decisions, but you're not punting in every fourth down, right? But
Right.
you're still making good decisions. You're opening up your playbook. You know, you're not afraid to do a fake punt, things like that.
Dan Campbell.
He's a little over the top for me. He just doesn't stop. So I don't know if I want that far as Dan Campbell, but so I do like that the younger type of coach now.
Right. Whereas I want the and a culture coach because what you've had You had Gruden, who was a culture coach,
Right.
and then you had McDaniels, who destroyed the culture, and then Antonio Pierce just lacked too. He didn't have any experience, and
Right.
he had horrible game management.
He just
I
looked
want someone.
he didn't look he kind of lost he didn't have confidence. He looked like he didn't know what he was doing.
Right. He's
Right.
never comfortable, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right. Like last year when he was the interim, it was house money. He could
Right.
just go out there and
Hmm.
but then he got the job and I think he started second guessing himself too much.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think he's a head coach, He'd probably be a great, defensive coach or even a position coach.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, coaching is going to be a big thing that we're going to talk about here because this actually really matters. You got a lot of vacancies, right? You got a lot of teams or a lot of, I think, profile potential coaches right now. And plus, we haven't talked a lot about some potential college coaches or coaches. You even brought up Pete Carroll, like that's still those are all viable.
I heard I don't
Uh,
know. I
I
act
bet we
like
better not get Pete Carroll because
yeah.
uh,
Now the best will be the Bears get Ryan Day.
no,
Dude, that's insulting.
What would you think if you're Ryan Day, you go and everyone's talking trash about you, you suck as a coach. Then you go and win a national championship. What better way than to be like, peace out. I'm going to the NFL now.
well, if he
Uh,
wins, he should get out of there because it's all downhill.
yeah. Chip Kelly wants to be the coach there anyways, and he's gonna wield things his way to become coach, like lose to Michigan. Again. He's like, I won't bring out my best stuff against Michigan and I'll get the job.
He'll
See you later,
throw
guys.
the championship game,
Yeah.
right?
It'd be like, I wanted to do a bunch of other stuff, but Ryan Day wouldn't let me.
Yeah, it's his fault.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to go through that, and then of course we've got the draft, right? So one great thing about now knowing where people finish up, a lot of mocks come out. We could start talking mock drafts. So that's another great topic.
Well,
But
here's
we
the
we
thing.
oh,
One
go
last
ahead.
thing here is the Patriots and the Raiders both had a chance at the number one pick, and then they won games. What happened? They got their coaches got fired for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Bears basically did the same thing. It's like there's no reason to win the game. You let Green Bay take the lead in the last 30 seconds, but then you're going to go and get the last second field goal. Like, how dumb is that?
Well, did it move them down that far?
I
I
mean,
mean,
either way, it's an additional game which puts you tied. I don't know what the tie breaks are, but now you're tied with the Jets, the Saints, so Jets and the
oh
Saints.
yeah, so
Where
you're at 10 now.
yeah, I mean,
But I
if
still
you're
think at 10 you're getting one of the top tackles.
yeah, it is just pointless to me. But
Who was beating the
it's the
Packers though?
Packers, right?
And you
Any other team, they would have just kneeled down.
come on. That hit I that they did on Love, you gotta love that one.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. So yeah, let's wrap up with HSC podcast. Fantasy football officially over. Championship game this weekend, and here's our champion, Fresh West. It's back in the podcast though, so that's solid, right? So we got the championship ring in the podcast. Derek, it was a classic case of
Thinking
overthinking
too
it.
much,
Yep.
overthinking.
I what I don't understand it because I was at breakfast and I couldn't even watch the games. They had women's college basketball on where I was at. This is stupid. But what I don't understand, what happened with Kyler Murray?
Oh, I didn't start him.
Because you thought either he's going to get benched or I mean he was going to. Or
I
he's
didn't
hurt.
think that they were going to do much with him. No.
Right.
And I thought Drew Lock was going to, because the Eagles benched their entire team.
Oh, yeah. So you did because I thought that's what I should have done with Bo Nix. But I didn't know. I thought because I was at breakfast and I'm like, why is Jaden Daniels only have 4 points? He's on the
He didn't
bench.
even play the second half.
But what happened is he kind of tweaked his leg. So and that's why they sat him. And then Bo Nix goes 18 for 18, 3 touchdowns. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna lose now. I got freaking Bo Nix on the bench.
Well, I had a few of those. I started Hill,
Dude.
and it was like right before the game started, I'm like, should I start Hill or DJ Moore? Well, though, because DJ Moore played the day before, right? Wasn't he? Oh, no, no, they
No,
were
they
all.
played same day. Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna start Hill because I didn't start him the week before, and he had at least like he had 18 points or something. And then it was Locke or Kyler Murray. And then you know what I almost did? And I'm so mad at myself. I go, you know what? I'm going to get Bryce Young. And
Yeah,
if I would have done that, I would have won.
yeah.
But to be fair, West deserved it more. I mean, Jaden Daniels, that would have been, it would have been, if I went in and won and it's because Daniels got hurt. It's kind of,
Yeah.
Well, the
and
problem
White had zero.
booted.
Yeah,
White,
you played White on
Yeah, I
for the
put why did
Bucks.
he say 0? I'm like, this is
did
crap.
they even play? What was, it had
I
no
know.
injury designation or anything.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'm gonna live. And then the Detroit game, I was like, dude, Derek's coming back. I was like,
I was, and then Aaron Jones got hurt, and then he came back, but he didn't do any. I mean, he wasn't
I
the
think what didn't he get? It looked like he had an IV or something. Like I don't know what was wrong with him, but it was just enough. But I'll say Tyreek Hill. What I heard was in the second half, he was like, screw this.
Yeah, he
probably.
was just
And he
Yeah.
was
done.
like, and that saved me because if Tyreek Hill would have had a touchdown, that would have.
Right.
Well, that's what happened at the very end of the Commanders game and the Falcons game. You got Bijan and McLaurin got touchdowns, and that's what won you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, but you got Bowers at the end of the Raiders game that
I
had
know.
zero all game and then comes out with a bunch of yards and a
Because I was
touchdown in
saying to
the second
myself,
half.
that's the guy I wanted, and Derek jumped me and got
Yeah.
him. And if he beats me, then
Oh,
that's why.
because it was zero all game,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden,
That's
30 minutes later, it's 15.
yeah.
I was watching that and I was like, there's no way Bowers just went from 0 to 15 in like 20 minutes. But Wes pulled it out. So
Yeah.
you're congratulations on the first of us to win the championship ring.
Yeah, I was mad because I was in championship in three other leagues, and I won all those, but I didn't win the one that mattered.
Well, I was mad because, my
You had
team
the best
had
point.
just murdered it this week. And I'm like, come on, man. Have a great year, top score almost all year, and then have a bad one first round of the playoffs and then kill it in the second round.
Defense wins championships, Steve. My
Yeah.
defense locked you down.
Yeah. So that was rough. But the worst thing about fantasy football being over is it's over for, another 9 months. So
Now I have to think about my stupidity
but we'll work on the losers trophy
for
this
Big
time.
Mike.
If you get a winner's trophy, you got to have a loser's trophy too.
Yeah. What was it? The ones I've seen that were awesome was like you had to stay in a bar or something, or like a Waffle House for 24 hours. Have you seen that? And then but it's like every like pancake stack you eat takes an hour off or something
Right.
like
Then you make them wear a shirt that says "I suck at fantasy
that. Yeah.
football." All right.
Yeah, and the other one was this one. I don't. We're too old for this one. Was like you have to stay at a bar all day, and the only way you could leave, you get an hour taken off for every shot you take.
Oh gosh. Yeah. That would be easy because the ambulance would be taking us away within like 6 hours. So that'd be rough. But well, that wraps up the season for fantasy football. Derek, you're the winner of the yearly picks. So you got a pretty good record actually. When I was looking at that, I
Well,
mean, we all did
we didn't even
okay,
tell you.
but
I was 12-4 this last week too, so
right,
180 and 92.
yeah, that's average or above what we normally do. So yeah, overall though we weren't terrible though. It was a little tougher year at the beginning, and then it kind of leveled off, made it a little easier to pick. But interesting year in football this year. Can't wait for the finish of the playoffs. Last thing as we wrap up, let's all give our pre-playoff Super Bowl winner.
Ugh,
Oh God.
I
So
don't
it's
want to jinx it.
pre-playoff. This is when you're right or wrong.
Well, this way I can jinx them. I'm going to say the Chiefs three-peat.
Oh, jeez.
Dude.
I'm taking the Lions. I'm going to roll with the Lions. I think it's a really good point of, they could potentially be losing two coaches. You don't build a team like this very often. Montgomery's coming back for the playoffs most likely, um, and that makes them extra tough.
All I know is last year, though, I was like, I just don't want 49ers Chiefs. And that's what we got. So
Hey, I
I'm not gonna.
mean,
I, I really don't want Lions Bills. That's what I don't want.
no,
I don't want the Bills to lose again. That's my problem. Because it's nice Detroit's there, but they've never been to the Super Bowl. They're the only team that hasn't. Modern day team. And then there's a lot of pressure on the Bills to win that game.
Well, you got what, one, two, three, what, four teams that never won a Super Bowl in the
Yeah.
yeah,
playoffs?
yeah, that's interesting.
Three.
Also in the college
Five.
football
Five teams
playoff,
never won a
right?
Super Bowl in the playoffs.
College football playoff, they were talking about the same thing. Like all four coaches are trying to win their first championship.
Yeah. But could we have Vikings, Bills?
It's
No.
not impossible, but we all picked the Vikings to lose, so
I know,
probably
but could
not.
you imagine that though?
Well, I
One
no, I
team's the
thought
ultimate loser.
a couple weeks ago, I thought it was a real possibility the way the Vikings were playing. I was like, this could actually go down, and I want to go to New Orleans for it. Like, I just want to go down there and watch the game on Bourbon Street. You
I
know,
want to go be on Bourbon Street.
I
Yeah.
understand it. That's another problem. But I'm crafty. I don't like large crowds. I'm just gonna go in between, and I'm not gonna be
Well, this is where you actually go to the game.
no. Well, I mean,
It's only like 2,500 bucks a ticket for nosebleed.
I want to watch a game in the Superdome. That's what I want to do. Yeah, that's expensive.
Who you got, Wes? Who you taking? Super Bowl winner.
Oh, uh, I'm going with Detroit too, and I'm gonna say they beat Kansas City. I think Kansas City's gonna get lucky to win. I think they beat Baltimore again. Um, and everyone's gonna think, oh yeah, they're gonna do it right, and
And then Detroit beats them, huh?
and um, and they're gonna bite their kneecaps off.
Dan Campbell goes for it 10 times on fourth down.
Yeah, and yeah, I think they can do it because I think Kansas City has really been lucky, and I think Dan Campbell's just like, all right, I got a little file on my computer just for Kansas City when we get there. And Ben Johnson and just the collective minds, I think can do it. And I think, yeah, I think it's a possibility. I'm going to take them.
Nice.
Well, if the
Okay.
Lions make it to the Super Bowl, I heard Aiden Hutchinson will be
Yeah.
ready
Yeah, he
for
might
the
be
Super
back
Bowl.
playing. And then one dark horse. So the dark horse of the playoffs, obviously you can't take like a top team, so it limits your options, but a team that, obviously isn't favored to win, who are you guys rolling with? I'll go first, give you a second to think about it. I'm rolling with the Chargers as my dark horse team. They I think they beat the Texans. I don't think the Chiefs, I think they can beat the Chiefs, and then you get to play a Buffalo or Ravens team who are beat up from playing each other. And the Chargers are well balanced and they're hyped, they're excited. And Jim Harbaugh's the guy you want. We know this from previous NFL playoff experience, if you're going to get to the Super Bowl. So I'm saying for my dark horse, the Chargers would be a good team to lay a little bit of money on.
Well, it's hard for me. So we're talking in the first round. Well, the Chargers are favorite to win though, but you're just saying aren't the top.
Yeah, not a dark horse to win the Super Bowl, a team that wouldn't be favored. Who am I going to get? 500 bucks back for 20.
Well, I got to look at the now. I just got to look at the.
What do you think, Wes?
I I hate to say this because I can't stand them, but I think the Broncos could have a little bit. I think teams are going to take them. I think number one, the Bills better not take them lightly. They're going to get punched in the mouth. Their defense is playing a lot better. It's Sean Payton. He's
Right.
going to everything. Schematically, they're going to be. It looks like they're going to be at full strength. And then you go in and you got to play Kansas City next. And Kansas City, I think, if that happens, they're going to regret giving them confidence. I
Right.
mean,
Letting them
they
in.
yeah, they wanted. I mean, they were about ready to play cheerleaders against the Broncos, so they didn't have to deal with Mr. Joe Burrow.
Right.
That's how scared they were of Joe Burrow in the playoffs. And so I think they could beat Kansas City, and then you're just playing with house money at that point. Um,
Yeah. I mean, and you have Sean Payton, which means, he's been there, obviously, and he knows how to coach in those games, and he's going to bring stuff unlike other coaches. He's going to prepare for the game, and
they're an unorthodox team, and
yeah.
you kind of take them for granted. But no, they can hit you in the mouth and then knock you out. You could be down by 2 touchdowns, and their defense is going to come to play, and you can
Right.
lose the squeaker. And you're supposed to win by 2 touchdowns.
Well, and then $20 gets you $1,100
Yeah.
for that one.
20 on the Broncos.
And Bo
Yeah.
Nix, he might just explode. He might get outside the pocket, run,
Right.
and do his thing. And you know what? You're in trouble. He's young. What does he have to lose? He's not even supposed to be in this position. He's going to probably go out there and play with confidence until Sean Payton yells at him.
I like it. I'm putting 20 on all of our winners.
Well, so the Chargers $20 will get you about 500, a little less.
I'm good with that. It's a good payout.
If that's the criteria, 500 for 20. I'm just looking.
No, bet with your heart, not your money.
Well, you said that like if what is the plus odds that you consider to be like
Anywhere around there and up, it doesn't matter.
because the
I
Vikings are plus 1,600.
mean, that's a good
That
odds,
that's not
but
it's not terrible either.
they have a tough road
I
potentially.
thought I thought of that too, but the only reason and everything I say about the Broncos, would it be funny? The two Super Bowls they've lost, and they've played twice in the Superdome and lost both times. And the last time they got killed by the Niners, worse than any other Super Bowl. Would it be funny if they went into the Superdome and won?
No,
That would be amazing.
That's a
no,
lot. Yeah, that is
That would
amazing.
that
be
would not be
amazing.
amazing, Wes. You need to be quiet about that.
Wait, are you
Actually,
saying
you're right. I'm supposed to hate the Broncos. Boo. No.
the Vikings have a higher odds than the Broncos?
No, no, no. The Broncos are
Oh,
plus 5,500.
the
Oh,
Broncos and the Vikings in the Super Bowl, and the Broncos win and give them their fifth loss.
Stop. Stop with the Broncos winning. No, here would be
Opponent's
best.
MVP.
How about a good old 55-10 rematch and Commanders against the Broncos? The
Oh man,
Commanders
that
crushing them
that would be
again.
the Commanders against the Broncos.
two rookie quarterbacks?
No, impossible. There's no way.
Impossible. Impossible, he
Anything
says.
is possible.
He says that's impossible. What are the odds if you bet
Oh yeah,
Commanders Broncos in the Super Bowl?
Well, okay, so is this I'll make sure this is odds, Super Bowl odds. Okay, so the if you put 20 on the Commanders, that's eight almost $900. And then the Broncos would be all so you'd want $40 to get you 2,000.
Right. Or there's got to be some kind of parlay bet though for
Yeah.
both of them making it, which like doubles that.
Yeah, let me look here.
So that's your bet, Wes. Commanders Broncos.
that is
You don't
that.
even need to bet who wins. Just bet them both to
Bet,
make it.
just bet them both. Yeah, I'm going to the casino tomorrow night. It's going down. I'm gonna do 20s, 20, 20.
Well, Derek still hasn't picked a team yet.
Who's
I'm just
picking
gonna
Mike?
I don't know. I'll go the Commanders.
Commanders. Some good odds there too. That's tough because I think they're going to lose to the Bucks. So,
Right.
all right. So we got Commanders, Broncos, and Chargers as some dark horses there. So if you're looking for some long odds, there you go.
I don't think the only one the Chargers might will at least win a game, but they might, you never know. They might upset the Chiefs.
Yeah, Commanders got a good chance to win their game, right? Because the Bucks aren't great. The Broncos, unfortunately, I'm not super confident in. Chargers, I think we all picked the Chargers,
Yeah.
and they're the favorite. So, but yeah, it's not about winning your first game, right? It's about getting to the Super Bowl because that's where it gets tough in both brackets.
Right. So you think about it though, like if you're the Chargers, you would have to either you're gonna have if you win and everything goes status quo, you have to go to Kansas City.
Yep, and then you got to go to
Either
Baltimore or
Buffalo or
Buffalo,
Baltimore.
right?
That would be, yeah.
That's a tough schedule. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Putting out a lot of shorts, so look for comments on topics so we can pull them out of our podcast shorts, and you can see those without having to spend 2 hours. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.